Alright, Rocketman's been out for about a month now. It's been a few weeks since I saw it. Now I'm finally gonna review this movie. Is this even still in theaters? I am so fucking late with this review, but the good news is, because it's been out for so long now, when I go into spoiler territory, nobody can get mad at me for it. So there you have it. Rocketman is a musical biographical film starring Taron Egerton as Elton John and tells a story to Elton John's rise and fall from fame. I was definitely interested in seeing this movie. The last movie we got about a famous music icon, that movie being Bohemian Rhapsody, I absolutely loved. A lot of people out there were claiming Rocketman to be the Bohemian Rhapsody of this year. I will say, for me, although I haven't been as much of an Elton John fan as I have been a Queen fan and a Freddie Mercury fan, I was still interested in seeing this movie. I wanted to see the story of what became of him. First of all, getting into the best part of this movie, easily Taron Egerton as Elton John. He nails this role. I just love seeing the way he portrayed Elton John. You know, in real life, in reality, Elton John was kind of a reserved, quiet, not that outgoing person. But the second Elton John took the stage, boom, you just see the flip switch and he just becomes this really flamboyant, extreme, insanely awesome and gifted singer. What also really won me over with Taron Egerton's performance is I found out that Taron Egerton actually legitimately sang every song that was in this movie. I always knew Taron Egerton had a good voice to himself, but this was really impressive. He really did sound like a young Elton John. I remember after watching this movie and I started listening to some of the Elton John songs that are in this movie, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, Taron Egerton sounded a lot like this. It really does go to show that Taron Egerton was the best choice to play Elton John. What I was also really excited for going into this movie though was simply the fact that I didn't know a whole lot about Elton John's past. As I mentioned earlier, I was never the biggest Elton John fan growing up. Nothing against him, it just wasn't the music I was really listening to, wasn't really raised on. So I didn't really know too much about what his story was, how he got into the music industry, if he had a fall in the career at any point. So I really appreciate that this movie really tells you the story basically of what his life was like from childhood to when he finally became sober. And it really does make you feel for Elton John because this poor man had a hard life. First of all, I want to get into his childhood. His parents were complete pieces of shit. His mom was just this really cold, unsatisfied, really didn't care all that much for her son. And then his dad was just a military asshole who was always gone, never made any form of an attempt to try to connect to his son. Like literally, you see from his childhood, Elton John was always a really gifted musician. His parents didn't give a fuck. It took his grandmother, who actually gave a shit about him, to finally take interest in him, and she sent him to a music academy so he could become a great musician. And then the movie flashes forward later to Elton John's adult life, and we're starting to see more of who he became as a person. Still incredibly musically gifted. He wants to really make it out there, but he's also dealing with some issues. You know, his family still has no intent of trying to form a connection with him whatsoever. He's also beginning to realize that he's gay. But it's also around this time Elton John gets introduced to the man who would become his longtime songwriter and his best friend, Bernie, who's played by Jamie Bell. I really want to give Jamie Bell props in this movie too, because obviously, you know, the big thing that people will talk about was Taron Egerton's performance and how great he was. Jamie Bell really crushed it here too. I love seeing the friendship that formed between them. The two of them just play off each other really well. These actors had great chemistry with each other. I really do buy the friendship, and I loved seeing the way they worked together, how Bernie and Elton John created music together. And Bernie had like no musical talent whatsoever. Like, I mean, he can't sing, he can't really perform, he doesn't really know how to write music, but he was an incredible lyricist. And one day, he and Elton John are just having a coffee meeting, and he presents Elton John with some lyrics to a song that he's written, and Elton John just literally like looking at the song, he just starts playing on the piano, basically doing improv on the piano, and he makes an unbelievable music to match the lyrics, and then boom, they had a song made. It really is amazing just seeing all the songs the two of them create together. I especially love the scene where, you know, they basically made the song Your Song. Because I like saying that that was the song that officially really got Elton John more recognized. People started to think, alright, this guy's special. let's really give him some more performances. Let's get him seen around the world. It's great seeing Bernie just come up with the lyrics, present them to Elton John. It's like, alright, watch this. Brrr. Okay, yeah, we have a song now. Let's do this. What I also really like seeing in the friendship between them is at the point where Elton John officially realizes that he's gay, and a lot of the people around him clearly see, yeah, you're gay. It's obvious. Some of them obviously, you know, have a bit of a, you know, disdain towards it, because I mean, back in that day, being gay wasn't really socially acceptable. But what I did like seeing is when, you know, Bernie officially finds out, he's just all like, dude, it's all good, you know, I still see you as my brother, you're still my best friend, I don't care who you're into, let's keep working together, it's all good. I liked seeing that acceptance right there. I liked seeing that it wasn't because of an issue like that their friendship was ever compromised. If I do want to get into one of the flaws that I did have with this movie to a degree, is as the movie does go along, like throughout the movie really, what I didn't expect was that this movie was also going to be a musical at the same time. You know, I thought it was going to be like Bohemian Rhapsody, where, you know, we have this biographical story behind the band, we see their songs get written, we see their performances for them. This movie, at certain points, turns into a straight-up musical. We have Taron Egerton just sitting and dancing, and the cast that's around him, they start, you know, performing with him, you know, all these choreographed scenes and everything like that. It's not that these musical numbers were bad, necessarily. The issue I had is they kind of took me out of the movie entirely for a moment. Because at first, when you're really just focused on Elton John's life and you're seeing what he's going through and you're seeing what he's dealing with, you know, it kind of sucks you into the movie. It puts you in that world and you really see what Elton John's going through. You see that and it's really getting you invested in the movie, but then a musical number happens, and for me anyway, it just kind of took me out of it. I just realized, oh, okay, yeah, this is a movie. I always say it's nothing better when a movie can just suck you into its world entirely, and this movie is able to do that in times, but when those moments happened, it just... I was brought out of it. Maybe it's just because I've never been the biggest musical fan when it comes to musical movies, so maybe that is a little bit of it as well. But at the same time, there were some very good musical numbers in here. I'm not going to deny that. The ones that I did, the majority of them I should say anyway, they did kind of take me out of it. But what I also really loved seeing is as Elton John's career, you know, elevated more, as he gained more fame, as he gained more fortune, as people started listening to his song more, you really begin to see the downfall. There are honestly just some moments in this movie that really just absolutely break your heart. For me, it's when he reunites with his parents. It reached a point, his parents eventually divorced, so it reached a time when Elton John decided, you know what, I'm gonna go visit my dad. I'm gonna go see what he's up to. You know, maybe I can reform some kind of relationship with him. And you find out here that his father has remarried, his father has 2 sons of his own, and right here, he doesn't seem to care for Elton John at all. He's not interested in really hearing about his life, hearing about his career, or anything like that. It even reached a point, and this was something that honestly really just... This pissed me off. It's nothing to do with the movie, it's just... I'm just saying, like, if this is true, which in all likelihood is... This is just sad on all levels. At one point, you just see his dad, you know, he's hugging his sons, he's kissing his sons, you know, which is something he never ever did for Elton John at any point in his life. And at one point, Elton John notices one of his records in the home, and maybe he's beginning to think, oh, so my dad is listening to music. He is getting interested in me. You know, he does want to form a connection. And what his dad does, he's like, oh yeah, this record right here, would you mind signing it? Could make it worth a lot more later as it goes on. It's like, yeah, wow, you really fucking just went there. You're a shit. It's like, yeah, you're rich and famous now, so here's, you know, some use I'll have for you. Just sign this record and, you know, I'm gonna sell it at some point. I'm gonna make a fortune for myself. You know, Elton John just does it out of the goodness in his heart, but at one point he just goes back into his car and he just starts crying because he knows his dad just doesn't give a shit for him. And that's heartbreaking, man. It also reaches the point he finally comes out to his mom. You know, he calls her up and he says, Mom, I'm gay. And, you know, his mom's just like, oh, I know. I've always known. But I just hope you're aware that now that you're gay, you realize that no one is ever gonna truly love you. It's like, you hear that conversation, you're just like, I mean, she can't be any worse than his father. Oh no, you're just as shitty. It's like, you could hear shit like that from, like, strangers all your life. To hear that from your own mother, to hear that from the woman who gave birth to you, that's just fucked up. It also reaches the point Elton John becomes affiliated with this music manager, John Reid. The two of them end up in a relationship together, and at first everything seems fine with them, but quickly you find out John Reid is completely taking advantage of Elton John, so using his fame, using his talent to make himself a little extra money. And by the time Elton John realizes this, John Reid's pulling the whole, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna be collecting my percentage long after you've died. I feel like because of all the shitty human beings that Elton John has been stuck with for pretty much his entire life, it's what drove him to the life of drugs and substance abuse. Like before every show, after every show, during his everyday life, Elton John just basically taking anything he can get his hands on. He's drinking heavily, he's snorting cocaine, he's popping a bunch of pills, he's doing everything to give him a high to just forget about all the shitty things that are going on. And that was one thing that I also liked seeing. Basically, the whole movie takes place in kind of a storytelling way, because in the opening scene, Elton John goes to basically an AA meeting, so it's basically him telling the story of why he's an addict. And you do quickly see it's because he was surrounded by all the wrong kind of love in his life. That's what's driven him towards that. What really does get to, though, is like seeing it reaches a point, Elton John's just like, I don't want to live anymore, so he's taking all the drugs that he's taking to try to purposely OD himself. At one point at a party at his mansion, he takes a bunch of pills and he just falls into the pool. He tries to drown himself. In this moment, we did get the Rocketman musical number, which was actually pretty cool. I liked seeing that number. You know, he gets rushed to the hospital, you know, he's revived, he's taken care of, but then immediately afterwards, John Reed, being a complete piece of shit, sends him straight to the Dodgers Stadium so he can perform. It's like, after a situation like that, that is the last thing you should be having this guy do, but it's horrible. It just seems like everyone's just using him to make money. It reaches the point for Elton John, he's married a woman to try to hide his homosexuality from the press. You know, he's still taking the amount of drugs that he's taking, you know, everyone's just forcing him onto stage, and it finally reaches a point after he suffers another heart attack from his drug consumption. He finally realizes, you know what, I have problems, I seriously need help, and it brings him to the AA meeting that we've been at since, well, really this whole time, but what we're introduced to in the beginning. What I really love seeing right here is, even though he and Bernie had kind of a falling out earlier in this movie because of the direction Elton John was taking his life, Bernie shows up once again, and he lets him know, he's like, dude, no matter what happens, I will always be here for you. You have a gift, you have a talent, you're a great person. Don't let the outside world affect you. What should matter is what the people in the life that matter to you most, what they feel about you. There are people out there who have been here with you from the beginning. I'm always going to be here for you. It's a really touching moment, and what I really love seeing in this moment is you kind of see, like, through Elton John's imagination, he's seen all, like, the people he's encountered over his life. He even runs into, like, his past self, like his child self, and it harkens back to an old saying that his younger self said to his father at one point. He's like, are you going to hug me or what? And, you know, his father never hugged him. In this situation, the younger him looks at the older him and he's like, are you going to hug me or what? And Elton John hugs younger Elton John, you know, kind of like establishing, like, you know, I'm now at peace with my past. I can accept it for what it is. You know, it's shaped me into the man I am today. And from there, we just get an epilogue showing that Elton John has been sober for as long as he has. He and Bernie are still great friends. He's now married to a man who truly loves him for who he is. He started a family with him, still making music. And, you know, all's worked out for him. But all in all, Rocketman, this was a really good movie. Taron Egerton gives easily the best performance of his career. He slayed it as Elton John. He looked like him. He sounded like him. He portrayed Elton John the way I feel like Elton John probably was back in the day. Will he be up for an Oscar? I don't know. I mean, I think he deserves consideration. Elton John and Jamie Bell had great chemistry together. I think they really embodied the friendship that Elton and Bernie had with each other. The music in this movie is great. Credit again to Taron Egerton for being able to sing the songs the way we've all heard them before. I really appreciate seeing the story of what Elton John's life was like and really gaining an appreciation for what this man went through. Does the movie wave toward the side of being corny and cheesy a little too much at times with its musical numbers? I think so. But like I said, some of the musical numbers were well done, and it's hearing the songs again, it made me go back and kind of listen to them a little bit more so, because I wanted to rekindle the memories I had with some of the Elton John music that I had known. I mean, I guess obviously the big question is, what's better, Bohemian Rhapsody or Rocketman? For me, I liked Bohemian Rhapsody more. I personally liked Rami Malek's performance more than Taron Egerton's performance. I'm also more of a Queen fan than an Elton John fan, so maybe that has a little bit more to do with it. I do also think Bohemian Rhapsody is just an all-around more well-made movie. But in the end, I really enjoyed Rocketman, and I really appreciated seeing the story of how Elton John came to be. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.